It's race day, everybody. Here is SamuraiT-X giving you the coverage for the 2006 United States Grand Prix on Formula 1 2006 Championship Edition. When we last left off yesterday, Jenson Button did qualify in pole position, breaking into the 112s. And Fernando Alonso will be joining in the front row with Giancarlo Fisichella third and Kimi Raikkonen fourth. But Martin Brundle will be telling you about the grid very soon. But yes, today is going to be a one-stop strategy for our race leader Jenson Button, as it's going to be a very competitive race with both Renaults breathing down his neck. But without further ado, let's let Martin Brundle take care of the grid.
Thanks for joining us. You're in for a real treat today. We're at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the home of the US Grand Prix. There is no more famous track in the United States than this. Setting the car up here can prove a real challenge due to the fact that the track is half high speed and half tight corners. Do you put more downforce on for the added grip, even though it means lower top speed, from the final corner down to turn one? It's a real dilemma for the team's technical crew. The rainfall is pretty consistent out there just now. Although it's not too heavy, there is some surface water lying on the track as a result. The forecast, unfortunately, is that it's going to get a good deal worse as the race develops. Not great for driving, but it should lead to some interesting racing. On pole it's Jenson Button. Next to him in second is Fernando Alonso. They're followed by Giancarlo Fisichella in third. Fourth is Kimi Raikkonen. They are followed by Felipe Massa in fifth. Next to him in sixth is Michael Schumacher. Seventh place for Juan Pablo Montoya. Eighth is Ralf Schumacher.
Thank you, Martin. Rubens Barrichello is 9th, David Coulthard's 10th, Nick Heidfeld's 11th, with Klein 12th, Trulli 13th, with Mark Webber and Nico Rosberg 14th and 15th, Christian Albert 16th, Lucius 17th, Sato 18th, Villeneuve 19th, Ide 20th, Montero 21st, and last but not least, Scott Speed, who is last on his home race. And when we come back, folks, I'll be at the grid, so I'm going to skip the formation lap, so I'll see you then. That's a great start here by Jenson Button, as James Allen does start us off here, but Fernando Alonso's also got a staggering start with Fisichella right behind him. It's a very wet track out there, and it's definitely going to give us a lot of trouble out there. Seems the rain is not going down, but heading into turn 3, Jenson Button does lead from Fernando Alonso and Fisichella, so the Renaults will be breathing down Jenson's neck throughout the entire afternoon of racing here. As Jenson Button does run wide, oh dear. Really shows how tough the conditions are. And Fernando Alonso's up his inside, but Jenson Button has defended very well. Alonso's having another go at Jenson Button, but Jenson Button defends again very well. Good stuff there from the early stages. So Jenson Button is ready to break into the next turn, which is turn 8, I believe. And Fernando Alonso is putting up pressure on him again. Thanks for the update, Martin. Looks like the rain is not going to let go at all, as the rain is going to keep falling throughout the entire race. It's got heavier. It was getting light on the grid when we were doing our formation lap, but now the rain just decided to pour on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And seems it's going to give the drivers the challenge. So who's going to be the first to call in for wet tyres, sorry, as all the drivers are on intermediates. And Jenson Button and the Honda boys are out as it's ready for Jenson Button. Seems he's going to be going in for wet tyres rather early. This is lap 2 of the race, but seems the track has gotten too wet for intermediates now. And a lot's going on around here. So it's a great start by Jenson Button's teammate Rubens Barrichello, who's moved up from 9th to 8th, sorry. 9th to 10th. Jeez, what kind of start was that, if that was anything? But don't worry, I'm just high on adrenaline here. But we're going to definitely call it down the middle as always. Now I'm talking like this is a wrestling match. But don't worry about that. you might as well say we're going to rest with Fernando Alonso for pole position here, because he's definitely putting a lot of pressure onto us. But as we're heading into the final start-finish straight, looks like we're going to have to head into the pit lane, since we did call into box this lap. And Alonso does hit us. There was contact, but I don't think there's no damage done to Fernando Alonso. Luckily, both drivers are unscathed as Jenson Button pits. And I think Fernando Alonso's pit. And so is Fisichella. I think everybody's coming in the pit lane. This is going to be terrible. Everybody's coming in the pit lane. Looks like Rubens Barrichello will be stuck behind Jenson Button. And the Honda boys are going fast at work. And Barrichello is stuck behind Jenson Button until he finishes. It looks like everybody's going to be blocking. A 9.4 seconds pit stop. And he's got in front of the Toro Rosso. That looks like of Liuzzi. And that is the Renault behind Jenson Button. So it looks like... oh no, that was the Toro Rosso speed. Liuzzi's just pitted. That is very confusing. But don't worry about that. Seems Jenson Button has retained first place and is ahead of Fernando Alonso. Kimi Raikkonen third place. Seems Fisichella lost a lot of places by being stuck behind Fernando Alonso as Jenson Button brakes, and he's gone wide. Oh my goodness. Did he completely forget about the braking zone? Well, I think he has, because his tyres are also cold, so Fernando Alonso definitely takes advantage of that. And he's in the lead. Wow. It's only lap 3 and already drama is at the front of the grid with Fernando Alonso overtaking Jenson Button. But the race is not over yet, so don't count Jenson Button out, as his tyres are getting warm. He's got the rear tyres working. Seems that's about it right now, because the front tyres seem to still remain cold. But will it be enough for him to keep up pressure on Fernando Alonso, as both of them have cold tyres at this rate? But Jenson has that advantage of much hotter tyres, as Fernando Alonso was stuck behind the other cars that were pitting, while Jenson got ahead of some of them, so he has the advantage, clearly. But Alonso is pulling away as he's 1 second ahead heading into the final start-finish straight, as we head into turn 13, and Jenson Button will just keep applying pressure. His lap was obviously invalidated because he ran wide, so we don't even know what his last lap was. But anyway, Fernando Alonso starts lap 4 in the lead, with Raikkonen 3rd, Massa 4th, and Ralf Schumacher 5th. Looks like Michael Schumacher lost out in a lot of places due to queuing up behind Felipe Massa. And Fernando Alonso has completely lost the lead to Jenson Button. Sorry to cut you off, James, but Fernando Alonso has completely gone, I don't know, I think he was going a bit slow there. His tyres weren't really warm enough, and Jenson Button really took an advantage and just took the lead from Fernando Alonso. Seems Jenson Button has got the wet tyres working faster than Fernando Alonso. So as James Allen was telling the places, I decided to intervene, because that was an important pass done by Jenson Button on Fernando Alonso, and that was for the lead, no less. So it's definitely heating up here. Well, I say heating up even though it's wet, but that doesn't really matter. Thanks for that, engineer, but I need concentration. Don't talk to me in the middle of the corners, please, as it's really hard to live commentate and race at the same time, but seems that's become a tendency for me. I'm getting used to it, even though I've made a bit of mistakes, but you know, I don't want to keep quiet during some of the turnings and whatnot. And Jenson Button's here ready to complete a lap, and it's a 1:18.8, and that is the fastest lap of the race by 3.6 seconds. That was 2 seconds faster than Fernando Alonso, according to James Allen. And it was quite contrasting, because Jenson Button did overtake Fernando Alonso. I thought James Allen was going to tell the places there, but guess I will. First is Button, second is Alonso, third is Kimi Raikkonen, fourth is Felipe Massa, Ralf Schumacher's in fifth, with I think that's Montoya sixth, and seventh is I think that's Barrichello in seventh actually, and then Fisichella's eighth. So he really lost out. He was third place before with a crazy stacking of pit stops, and then he lost out massively. So he's got a lot of catching up to do, and Fernando Alonso looks like he's going to put pressure on Button. But I don't think he's really putting that much pressure on Button, because he's nearly 1 second behind Jenson Button. And it seems Ralf Schumacher's falling behind as well. He's 4 seconds behind Felipe Massa. So this race is getting a bit interesting for the lead, as always, as Fernando Alonso is applying pressure on Jenson Button, as the straight line speed of that Renault is better than the Honda. And Jenson Button does a 1:20.2. I disagree there, James. Fernando Alonso did close the gap down to 7 tenths of a second.
First is Button. Alonso is second. Raikkonen is third. Massa fourth. Next is Ralf Schumacher. Sixth is Heidfeld. David Coulthard is seventh. And Webber is in eighth place.
Okay, it seems I was right about Rubens Barrichello being in the top 8, but I was wrong about Fisichella. He really lost out in a lot of places, didn't he? Wow, he's really the big loser of the bunch, and Michael Schumacher, and Montoya. I thought Montoya was there, but maybe Montoya lost places in the process. Maybe he made a mistake somewhere, but I'm not going to check the replays because we got to concentrate on our race, which is for the lead, because Fernando Alonso is keeping the pace consistent. Or is he? Because he's 1.8 seconds behind. As I said, he was keeping it consistent. But he tends to catch up rather quickly in the first sector and second sectors sometimes, but this race is far from over, as we are heading into lap 7 of this race.
Looks like Button is pulling out all the stops today. That lap was 1:19.36. He's steadily building up a lead over Fernando Alonso. The gap has increased to 1.5 seconds.
That's not what Fernando Alonso wants, as Button is pulling away from him. But it's happening right now, as Jenson Button is leading this race. He does kiss the curb, but that should be enough for Fernando to close the gap down just a tiny bit. But it's not, because he's 2 seconds behind now. What is going on with the Renault's pace on the wet tyres? But Button has run wide, oh dear, and looks like that might be the advantage Alonso needs to close the gap down, because Jenson does run wide there. But how many seconds is he behind? Is he going to close it down by at least 9 tenths? Because that was a very big mistake by Jenson Button. And another big mistake by Jenson as he runs wide again. So as Button is pulling away, he's making mistakes. And that's giving Alonso the time to catch up. And he has caught up by 1.7 tenths. The battle for the lead is far from over by all means. If Jenson Button keeps making these mistakes. Because this is errors upon the Brit. And he's still trying to race for his first race win of the 2006 season. He's not won ever since entering Formula 1. He would love to win here in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But unfortunately, if he keeps making mistakes like this, he might lose the lead like he did in the third lap after exiting the pit lane. As you can see, Button has been complaining on the radio about his front right rear being very cold still on his Delta. So it seems it's a good weekend for the Hondas right now, as both drivers are in the points, winning in first place and 8th place. But Barrichello should have the pace to close down Nick Heidfeld and David Coulthard, who is in front of him right now. So Barrichello does have a competitive car with him in the wets, as Jenson Button is showing that the car is very competitive in the wets, as it's competing with the Renault. Because Jenson Button's tyres is much hotter than Fernando Alonso. He's got the tyres working better than the world champion right now, as it's 1.2 seconds. Fernando Alonso was 1/10 behind him at one stage, now it's 1.2 seconds. As we are half distance, and we are ready to go to lap 8 of this race. And Jenson Button's about to complete the lap, sorry about my silence, I'm just waiting to see what his lap time is. And it's a 1:19.7. Thank you for that information, James. And seems Button does have a 1 second gap, and he's made a mistake. So, oh dear, and he's got penalised for it to slow down. So, that's 1 second. Lucky it wasn't longer than that. If it was longer than that, then Fernando Alonso would have definitely overtaken him. And that doesn't help his tyres, since that slowed him down, and it's made his tyres look a bit cooler. Especially at the front, because his front right tyre is definitely not heating up. I don't understand why it's not, but Jenson has been complaining about it a lot, but luckily for him, he's got 3 of his tyres warmed up and is working better than the world champion Fernando Alonso's right now. So that's a very good thing if you're Jenson Button right now. That he's keeping the pace consistent and he's staying ahead of Fernando Alonso, a much more superior car. But the Honda has the tyres working very well, which is very good on the Honda team. And the pit stop was excellent by the Honda boys to get him ahead of Fernando Alonso, considering that everybody was pitting on lap 2. That was crazy. And there's debris out on the final straight, as the red and yellow flags can tell. And we are entering lap 9 of this race. And Fernando Alonso is 9/10 of a second behind Jenson Button. Kimi Raikkonen 2.8 seconds down the road of Fernando Alonso. He's currently holding on to that final podium place from Felipe Massa, who's putting pressure onto the McLaren.
First is Button. Alonso is second. Raikkonen is third. Massa fourth. Next is Ralf Schumacher. Sixth is Heidfeld. Barrichello is seventh. He's moved up from eighth. And in eighth is Coulthard.
Barrichello has overtaken David Coulthard for 7th place, and while James Allen was telling the places, Felipe Massa has got past Kimi Raikkonen for the final podium place, and Jenson Button did make a mistake, but Fernando Alonso has not taken that much advantage of it, because he's still trailing Jenson Button. And Jenson Button is still keeping his cool, despite making another mistake, as you can see, as we are riding on board with Jenson. This is not one of his best races, but he's actually still in 1st place, surprisingly. But this is a strong race by the Hondas, as Barrichello is continuing to progress up the field. And he's now got Nick Heidfeld next to overtake for 6th place. So it's definitely a good race from the Hondas right now, as we enter lap 10 of this race right now. And Button has done a 120.7.
He's just done a lap of 120.72. He's extending his lead over Button with every second that passes. The gap is...
I'm sorry, James, what? James Allen, you just said Button has extended his lead over Button. I heard that correctly, and I'm correcting you. We mean that James Allen means that Jenson Button has extended his gap to Fernando Alonso, which he hasn't in this case, because he was 1/10 ahead of Fernando Alonso at the time, before the first sector was complete. Now he's extended that by 8/10 of a second, so surely Martin Brundle will start correcting his mistakes once in a while. Because that was really poor on James Allen's half, saying that Button is basically racing himself. The only person that could really get away with that is Murray Walker. But good thing for my commentary. I hope James Allen has corrected his mistake in the next lap, as I will make him take over in the next lap, because he's likely going to keep covering the gap between both Jenson and Fernando Alonso. And Jenson is run a bit wide there, but he's kept his cool and looks like he's heading on lap 11 soon, as he's heading down the start-finish straight, as that's turn 13 right here. And his lap time is going to be a 1 minute 19.414.
That lap was 119.41. He's extending his lead over Button with every second that passes.
I'm sorry, James. I'm going to have to cut you off, because that's the second mistake you've made. Right. Jenson Button is now 9/10 of a second ahead of Fernando Alonso. Just to correct James Allen. Is he going to tell the positions? I don't think he will, but there's debris on the track, as you can see by the red and yellow flags. So we're going to have to be very careful to avoid the debris. But we don't know where it is, because our engineer hasn't really told us where the debris is currently. So, or we just run over the debris, but it didn't do enough damage for us to spin, which is a good thing. Right now, Jenson Button is holding the lead over Fernando Alonso, but Fernando Alonso is adding the pressure on him, because Fernando Alonso does want to win. But it's a very good race by the Honda boys right now, as Jenson Button does extend his lead over Fernando Alonso to 1.6 seconds, with Felipe Massa 3.2 seconds down the road, and Kimi Raikkonen 4 seconds down the road on Felipe Massa, but Ralf Schumacher is well behind the front four. And Ralf Schumacher is not really going to be that competitive against the front four right now. And Jenson Button's lap is going to be a 119.2, no, 119.065, sorry.
This race isn't over yet. Right now, Button is under some pressure. The gap currently stands at 1.7 seconds. Alonso completes a good final sector. The gap is now down to 1.5 seconds.
Thanks, Martin. At least you got that right.
Into the final few laps. First is Button. Alonso is second. Massa is third. Fourth is Raikkonen. Next is Ralf Schumacher. Barrichello is sixth.
Button must have got a message through from his team to push. He's extended the gap by a rather impressive 0.7 of a second.
Thanks, Martin, for that update. That was a very good update from you, Martin Brundles. Looks like he's going to be intervening in. Now it's the closing moments of this race. And right now we are really developing a healthy lead over Fernando Alonso. But luckily he's going to close that down. Or is he? No, he's not, because it's 2.9 seconds. As Jenson Button has become even faster than Fernando Alonso. And thank you, Martin, again for telling us the gap. It's 3 seconds now between Fernando Alonso and Jenson Button. But how will Fernando Alonso respond? We shall see. As Jenson Button is about to go across the line. And it's a 1:17.986, which is the lap record right now. What a brilliant lap that was.
Starting to respond. He's managed to reduce the deficit by another 0.2 of a second.
So now the gap now is down to 2.7 seconds. Which is Fernando Alonso putting the pressure on Jenson Button, or try to, as we're down to the penultimate lap of this race. And Jenson Button is really feeling comfortable out there as the pressure is officially gone off him.
Currently stands at about 3.6 seconds. Alonso doesn't look like he's going to catch him now. Button would have been feeling the pressure but continued to race without any major mistakes. He is now effectively out of touch as a result.
Thank you, Martin, for that. Looks like he's right, actually. Jenson Button has pulled away from Fernando Alonso. It seems the tyres have given up on Fernando, and Jenson's just gained a complete advantage over it. Because now the gap is on 4.1 seconds. Fernando Alonso's tyres is completely gone. What's happened to Fernando Alonso? He was putting the pressure on, and it seems he must have made a mistake on the debris or something. Because the tyres have completely given up on him, and Jenson Button's just pulled away. As Jenson Button is right now about to start his final lap. And Rubens Barrichello has indeed overtaken Ralf Schumacher for 5th place.
Alonso is behind him in second place.
Alright, engineer, we will bring it in one piece. It looks like there's a back marker right in front of us.
There's not long to go now, and the current top 8 looks like this. First is Button. Alonso is second. Massa is third. Fourth is Raikkonen. Barrichello fifth. He's moved up from sixth. Next is Ralf Schumacher. Fisichella seventh. Heidfeld is in 8th place.
And Fisichella has moved up to 7th place in the points. But this is definitely a good weekend for the Honda boys, who's got 1st and 5th. And right now there's a back marker ahead. I think that's the Super Guri of Yuji Ide. Let's hope he doesn't get in the way of the Jenson Button, because he's about to win this race. And Yuji Ide does kindly move out of the racing line and does race on his own line. So good on Yuji Ide for moving out of the way. And Jenson Button is now on the penultimate turn in here. Fernando Alonso is 3.8 seconds down the road, and this race is over because Jenson Button has now made it past turn 12 and is entering turn 13 here. And Jenson Button is going to make history here, as he's going to mark it down as his first win here in Indianapolis and his first win in Formula One. Jenson Button wins the United States Grand Prix.
That's a great drive and fully deserving of the 10 points. Alonso should hang on to finish second. All is forgiven for the problems of 2005. Indianapolis has hosted a fantastic race here today. It's been a credit to everyone involved. The fans attending the circuit today have been treated to a great race, and they look very happy. A far cry from the scenes of last year. But this is exactly what F1 racing in America needed. 2 weeks from now, we'll be back in familiar F1 territory at Manicourt in the heart of rural France. I hope you'll join us then. Goodbye for now.
Thank you, Martin. Looks like Jenson Button does win this race. And there was your top finishers. And we're going to take you straight to the podium. I will tell you the results later on. It's going to be glorious listening to the national anthem of the United Kingdom. But let's go to the podium and let's see Jenson Button celebrate his victory. Oh man, that was so fantastic. That race was very good as well. Considering races are really my weakest. Right, let's wait for the loading screen to appear. That feels so good to actually add the United States Grand Prix to my trophy cabinet. But yes, first was Button, second was Alonso, third was Massa, fourth was Raikkonen, fifth was Barrichello, sixth was Heidfeld, seventh was Fisichella, and I think eighth was no, Ralf Schumacher was sixth, Heidfeld was eighth, sorry. So first was Button, Alonso second, third was Massa, fourth was Raikkonen, fifth was Barrichello, sixth was Ralf Schumacher, seventh Fisichella, and eighth Nick Heidfeld. Those were your top eight. But that was a great race. Now I'm going to give you my predictions for the United States Grand Prix. So, Lewis Hamilton was pole position with Sebastian Vettel was second, Valtteri Bottas was third with Ricciardo fourth, and Raikkonen fifth. Max Verstappen got sixth, but he has a penalty. So Ocon moves up to sixth. But yeah, I'm hoping Ferrari does compete in race, because race pace is normally good, but their reliability has been really crap lately. But let's hope the championship doesn't end in the United States, and hopefully Vettel does something to salvage something. That's all I hope for anyway, a good race. And I hope the championship goes down the wire in Abu Dhabi. That's all I'm hoping for, because that's all I want is for the championship to go down to the wire at Abu Dhabi. But if Vettel finishes lower than sixth while Hamilton wins the United States Grand Prix, then unfortunately the championship goes to Lewis Hamilton. It'll be number 4. And he's a great driver. I'll give Lewis Hamilton credit where it's due. He's fantastic. But hope you guys enjoy the United States Grand Prix. That's my preview. I'm going for a Ferrari win. This is SamuraiT-X signing out. Until then. Thank you guys for watching this race, and I'll see you guys in the next race whenever I do one. Take care, everybody.